on the hole to fill it in.
More material to fill it.
What about the pipelines that cross the sinkhole? I understand there's been a decision made to cut them and abandon in place.
Right. Bruce or Mike, you guys want to?
Well, all the pipeline companies that currently own those pipelines they're all rerouting their pipelines.
Right.
Their plans that they've shared with us is when they get through rerouting their pipelines, they're gonna take those crews and come out and either cut and cap the pipelines or turn them over to Texas Brine. So they haven't told us, they haven't shared their plans with us. As a contingency, we've made plans to P&A those pipelines ourselves when and if we become owners of them. So that's the plan. The only one that's really a concern to us is the one that's still floating, because in a severe weather event, that might move around enough to undermine underneath the berms. So we keep a close eye on it.
The one that's moving, that's the big 36-inch?
24.
It's the one of the 20s?
It's one of the 20s.
20s, yes.
One of the 20s.
Acadians. There was two Acadians, one sunk, and there's only one floating. Now, they've abandoned that.
They've abandoned north and south of the sinkholes, but they haven't cut them off in the sinkhole.
Yeah, it's still floating. We think, we haven't found it, but we think the ones that aren't floating have probably breached and sunk or separated. I mean, the Crosstech was a 36-inch pipe with like 3 inches of concrete on it. And with that kind of span, we did a survey, we had Florida Gas do a survey on that early on, and it showed that good indication that it had a sharp V where it might have breached.
The Florida gas lines, we've got a survey of those, and they look broken. So they'll never be returned to operation if that was a concern.
Now, what about, are there any immediate plans for any more W wells or pressure wells anywhere in the community or anywhere in the general vicinity here?
We don't have any on the board or on the table right now. And I'll tell you what, when you look at the fleet, when you look at 51 some odd wells, about half of those produce gas, and about 10% of those 51 remain productive. And so, like I've said in the past, we could come in and dot the countryside with ORWs. But chances are we're not going to get any better recovery than we're currently getting out of the good producers that we have right now. And so it's not feasible to us to come in and do that. We think we're gaining on this thing. And I know that there's been comments about the need for pressure monitoring wells, that there's no indication that the pressures are dropping. And I've asked the team to hang some of these graphs up here, and if you take a minute to look at them, the red lines are trending down. Those are well pressures. Dennis, last time we met, you asked about well 36. You said, why does it continue to produce at such a rate? Well, what's happening is Tetra Tech in its daily rounds, they're tweaking that thing to keep it flowing at as high a rate as possible. But even that well, if you look at the history of wellhead pressure, it's trending down. So it's going to ultimately do something like these wells are doing. This blue down here, that's OGRW1. That's been our best well. So it's about done. And so I think all of the wells out here that are productive, particularly these really high producers, these 4 right here, will probably follow in that same path. Now, what we proposed as an alternate to pressure monitor wells was to come back in at a future date and repeat some of the CPTs in select areas and see, or confirm rather, if those gas intervals that we detected in the first round are gone. Our expectation will be that when this is done, when these wells are through venting, we should find that the gas is gone. Okay? Hopefully so.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
That well on the Bird property, down South Pecan, that it says it's a non-flowing well.
Yeah.
Is that one that y'all planning to put in, seal in, shut down?
38.
Oh, W38.
Or W38. If I was betting, I'd say that well is done, and it will probably be among the first that we come in and plug.
Is there a passive well there too?
No.
No? That's where they've been pumping out with a vacuum truck.
Right, that's where we did the first water production test on the ORW well.
And did y'all find any subsidence anywhere in the community?
Not to date, not from the
There's
grid.
no subsidence.
Nothing that we can attribute to water production from that well. We put up a pretty extensive grid all along the well. You probably saw the survey markers. And for a period of, what, 2 weeks after the water production?
2 weeks before production, all the way during production, then 2 weeks after production. For any water.
That will never produce any gas. I mean, it's shown pressure a couple of times, but as soon as we open it up, the pressure falls off.
What we really found attractive about that well and why it was selected originally as a well is because it was in an area where we had bubbling and we couldn't understand why it would produce gas. So we thought, well, if we take this thing and pull that water level down, maybe we can induce flow. It didn't do that.
The bubbling in my pond stopped after they installed that well, I know that.
Is that right?
Yeah. And another thing, I just gotta get, I mean, it's just killing me. I don't plan on leaving. I don't know what I plan on doing. Anyway, that's besides the point. I know y'all bought these properties and it's y'all properties and y'all, I don't know what y'all plan to do with these houses or whatever. But if I'd have sold out, it would frickin' kill me to see. I don't care who it is living in my frickin' house. I don't give a shit how good of a guy he is. It's just, this is where I belong.
It's our home.
And I just couldn't stand to see somebody. I don't give a fucking, I don't care if y'all gave me $1 million for my place. It would just frickin' kill me to see somebody else. And I'm not saying anything bad about you, but it don't matter to me. I'm just telling you how I feel about it.
That's how we all
Yeah,
feel.
And I can tell
And
you,
I understand that y'all bought the properties, the people settled out, they gone, they done with this place. But I'm not, I love this frickin' place. Thank you.
why don't you sit down and
No, I got to go.
Bye, Rick.
All right. We understand, we really do, and, you know, as I've said many times before, we do things wrong, we make missteps, and think just barging in and saying we're putting people in these homes was probably insensitive. I get that now, from hearing that from y'all.
But what you
None of us-
also do, you own these places
Right.
now.
And-
At one time, supposedly, we were told that it may be green area.
Mhm.
I really don't think that's ever gonna happen.
Well, let me give you some history, and I'll ask Bruce to step in, because he's much more abreast of the insurance process. When you say we own these things, that's still a question. That's still a question. Texas Brine may end up owning these homes if Texas Brine dollars end up
Well, if
In
you
the
don't own
transaction.
them, how can you do this with them?
the insurance company, the
The
insurance company.
insurance company.
Yeah. The
It's
insurance
letting
company.
people move into homes, swapping
Well, no.
land for homes
There's-
and all of this other
There's an
crap.
upside, there's an upside to the insurance company owning it, and I'll tell you what it is. If an insurance company has to fork over $150,000, $200,000 to buy a home because of a claim of gas underneath it and a potential hazard, the last thing that insurance company wants to do is sell it to somebody else who could turn around and file another claim. So the logical solution would be, if the insurance companies end up with them, they'll be torn down, which is unfortunate to see a good home go down. The other thing that you need to know, Texas Brine is not in the business of real estate.
So we've
We've
heard.
heard
Yeah.
that many, many times.
Well, what
That's
would
not it
lead you
looks
to
like.
believe that that's not a fact?
What did you, who owns it?
We've got guys temporarily,
Where's y'all insurance company at?
there's several.
Yeah, Mark,
Which one owns it?
I mean, I
Which
think
one
there's a
owns that
difference
house?
between,
Let me let
there's a
Bruce-
difference between him moving in a house, he works here, he has to be here at least 2 or 3 weeks. We get that, okay, he's gonna use one of the houses instead of staying in a hotel. But to transfer or swap a piece of property for a house is, you're selling a house.
Explain it to us. We don't understand that part at all.
let me speak to what I think your question is. The insurance companies basically provided all the money for the houses, the settlement's done today. We set up a separate.
Settlement's done today?
The settlement's done today.
To date.
Close.
To date.
Today. Sorry.
Still some.
Okay, go ahead.
I think there was 68 agreements, I think we've closed on 65 of them, last number I heard. We set up a separate company, subsidiary of Texas Brine, you may see it, Bayou Corn Holdings LLC. It's a wholly owned subsidiary just to get it all in that and make it, it made it much easier to do all the paperwork. So that's who has title. Texas Brine owns Bayou Corn Holdings. So if you see that name, that's where it comes from. Because the insurance company has given and provided the money, and we're not done with this whole response, they have a big say in what happens with the property going forward. And I've stayed up here and said, Texas Brine has no desire to be in the home ownership business long-term, and it would be our intent to demolish them and turn them to green property. That's our intent. But we have to work through the insurance company, and there's a whole lot of issues going on with our insurance companies right now. You all know one of them sued us and said, we don't think we're responsible for anything. That's a thing that will have to be settled in the courts before we know what kind of insurance coverage we have. We paid in a lot of money in premiums, but now we've got insurance companies that are trying to walk on us. So, when you put all that together, we are even having some challenges getting the insurance companies to reimburse us for the monies we've spent putting relief wells in, geophone wells in, sinkhole berms. But our owners are committed to continue to stay with it and do the things that we're being directed to do with DNR, and they've told us to do. The insurance company are willing to look at settlements and pipeline claims and stuff like that, but they're reluctant to reimburse us. So before we start a process of demolishing or moving out mobile homes or anything like that, we've committed, and the insurance companies want us to get their input on what should happen. And unfortunately, I've asked numerous times, have not gotten any response from them so far. So that's why there hasn't been any homes demolished yet. And that's why, the only people that we're planning on moving in as workers is in terms of response team, members of response team.